I'm here at Paris Charles de Gaulle to find out just how good is Air France's business class cabin and also their lounges are one of the key routes to Dubai. But right now, with French haute cuisine in mind, a certain Gaulic je ne sais quoi, and a soupçon of the style of France, you join me at the heart of, indeed, the very best airport that France can provide. Paris Charles de Gaulle. Again. It's a terrible airport. Now, many passengers have complained about it for being, well, unfriendly, harsh, disorganised, rambling, arrogant and overwhelming. And that's just being kind. So, enough of the constructive criticism. The problem is that Terminal 2E, where Air France is based, is actually 5 separate terminals in one, separated into short-haul, Schengen, non-Schengen, international and all the rest, with separate passport controls and security at each hall within the terminal, which are linked by trains, pre-security. My problems started at the lounge in Hall K-Gate, which sent me away with a flea in my ear. I booked an Air France business ticket through Qantas, who yes are Oneworld, and Air France a SkyTeam. I thought I could check in at the lounge. Oh no, how wrong I was. The staff just reiterated, like a mantra, that Qantas didn't operate from Charles de Gaulle. Now, in a way, they're right, but Qantas, a core part of Oneworld, has now started offering point redemptions on Air France and KLM. Yeah, you did hear that right, jumping alliance. The lounge crew, however, didn't get the memo and told me that I couldn't possibly have a ticket from Qantas. Thankfully, Qantas provided me with a parallel PNR on Air France's system, so I could in the end check in online, but that left me with a problem. 4 hours to kill at Paris Charles de Gaulle without a lounge. Really a first world trauma. Now, wisdom has it, and indeed all the guides to the horror that is Charles de Gaulle, say it's impossible to get from Terminal 2E to Terminal 2E airside, and you can't lounge hop from Hall E to Hall L. Fraudulent slip intended. Well, I'd tried before and been met with a firm non at the lounge, but I thought I'd challenge that by leaving the K-Gate 2E secure area and taking the train to 2E Hall L. I do hope you're keeping up. Heart in mouth, I approached the lounge, scanned my boarding card, and got a beep and a green light. My troubles were over. I was into the better lounge, until a moment later I saw the lounge staff running up to me, explaining in broken English I was in the wrong lounge and I must leave immediately. I swapped to French and said I wanted to visit as the spa was closed in Hall L, and immediately they broke into smiles and said it wasn't a problem so long as I partais à la heure. In other words, leave on time. And here we are, I finally made it into the Hall L Gate Lounge, the brand new modern swish lounge that Air France offer at its hub for a few of its business class passengers who managed to convince the staff that they know what they're doing and they're damn well going to do it. I always think about George Orwell's Animal Farm in these situations. All passengers are equal, but some passengers are more equal than others. It's rather like an irregular verb, in fact. I'm not permitted entry, you look like the right sort, and they are welcome with open arms. Anyway, the lounge itself is great and very empty. It's got a central cocktail area called Le Balcon, which gets much of the attention. It should have waiter service, but the staff decided they wanted to go home early, so it was already shut by the time I arrived. There's a large wine selection with French wines naturally to the fore, however they aren't presented very well with just a bucket on the self-serve bar. Strictly for research, I tried a glass, which retails for about €10 in Carrefour. There's a buffet at one end of the lounge, but it wasn't the high-quality French food I expected. Nope, it's a question of soup, burgers or quiche, plus a mixed meat curry. There's salad too, with slices of ham and some very pedestrian cheese. But the dessert section, wow, it's enough to give my dentist the collywobbles. The desserts really are the best, with lots of different sweet desserts, sponge and cream cake. I eventually settled on that French classic, tiramisu. There are many seating options here, most of them pretty beige, large comfy chairs or hard upright chairs, and occasionally you get a chair that's red. Okay, isn't really a view to speak of over the airport. Instead, the room has windows that overlook the main airport access road, which is really quite mesmerising. It's part motorway service station and part connecting you to frantic Paris. Now, I had a wander through the back of the lounge to look at the warp core that powers Air France opposite the Clarence Spa. I did hope for a treatment, but apparently they were solidly booked, despite the lounge being deserted. So instead I went to the relaxation zone referred to as 0G. It's quite odd, as the main sleeping area has daybeds in a central circle, and there are private curtained booths with days beds, but they're occupied by youths who were all yelling into their phones or listening to loud rap music on speakers. Double hum. Now, I really could have done with a rest as I'd been travelling all day. I arrived off a 40-minute hop from London Heathrow, which was an eye-opener in itself. The beautiful Air France lounge at Heathrow has been demolished, and now Air France directs you to an overcrowded third-party lounge where passengers stage hostile takeover bids of the lounge chairs by placing shopping on 3 of the 4 chairs around them. I call it Game of Thrones. As far as food goes, Air France chucked a bit of pasta at me and a couple of lumps of cheese. It was moderately adequate. Air France even cracked open the wine cellar and offered a choice of red or white. More than good enough, I guess, before I landed at the K gates before heading to the L gates. So, with the lounge ticked off here, it was time to go in search of, well, people and humanity and go head to head with the lounge that told me I didn't have a ticket back in the K gates. Back in the K gates, I passed a Boeing 777 on the way. I'm really thankful my flight has been upgraded to the latest Airbus A350. Into the Terminal 2E K gates lounge, which meant going through security a 3rd time today. I just flashed my boarding card and got straight into the lounge I was belligerently denied before. And I wish I hadn't. It's miserable, a real throwback to the 1980s, which is when it last saw redecoration. This lounge is dull. There are the low ceilings and beige colour scheme that really make for a depressing bunker-like feel with all the atmosphere of a hospital cafe. So much for Vive la France, although there are actually 2 parts to the lounge, with the really old 1960s section having an ancient staircase despite having windows and 2 levels. It's also decidedly grim and a depressing start to any journey. If ever there was a lounge not to pick in Paris, the Air France K-Gate lounge would be the one to avoid. Since this lounge sits underground, it was never going to be light and airy. On the right-hand side, well, that's the most depressing, although an effort has been made to add some light through fake windows, just have lights behind them. The low ceilings and neutral colour scheme really give the place a dismal bunker-like vibe. There is hot food, which consists of a large bowl of soup and hot rolls. Next to this are 3 or 4 hot dishes. There are also a couple of tureens with hot curry and rice and pasta. It's remarkably average and rather resembled selling gruel as haute cuisine. At least a Duval Leroy champagne is served, slightly down market on the Laurent Perrier champagne previously offered. It's in the bucket along with a bottle of Côte de Rhône. I honestly couldn't wait to board my flight, which came sooner than I'd planned. The same chappie who laughed at my business class ticket earlier firmly walked up to me and asked what I thought I was doing in the lounge. I showed him my business class boarding card and told him in French I've got a perfect right to be there. For the first time I truly understood what it means when somebody suddenly realises that they've been well and truly outsmarted, and you also understood exactly what they were saying in a foreign language before. Or so I thought. He then told me that photography is strictly prohibited in any Air France lounge, and under threat of the gendarmerie, I had to delete all the photos I had in front of him. I tried that positive thinking stuff, and I knew it wouldn't work, and sure enough it didn't. Couldn't work out if it was a scene from Abigail's Party or Act 3 of the scenes of Norman's Conquest. But still, depression? No, sorry, that should be discretion, being the better part of being in a lounge and actually getting to Dubai. With only 20 minutes to go to boarding, at that point I quietly left, leaving the lounge staff to remain amicably antagonistic. So a quick walk out of the lounge to the K-Gates, or should that be just quickly leaving the lounge, pursued by lounge staff, I walked along to the gates, and here we are, boarding the Air France A350 900 series, heading to Dubai from, well, I'd love to say the delightful environment of Charles de Gaulle, But then again, if he was alive today, he'd probably be turning in his grave at what had been named after him. Anyway, got on board, 34 seats in business with a 74-inch flat bed, 21-inch width and plenty of space to spread out and indeed stick your legs into a little hole in front. So here we are, boarding the AirFrance A350-900 series heading to Dubai. Now AirFrance flies the A350-900 model, which is configured with 34 business class seats in a 1-2-1 layout. Seats themselves are essentially a classic reverse herringbone seat, similar to that used by United and many other carriers. It includes a 74-inch flatbed and a 21-inch width. I had a look at the back of the bus, where there are 3 rows of premium economy with a 37-inch pitch, that's slightly smaller than normal, in a 2-4-2 layout. Premium economy seat comes with a reading lamp, noise-reducing headset and a 13.3-inch high-definition TV screen. Then going further back into steerage, where the AirFrance A350 has a 333 layout and a 31-inch pitch and a 17-inch width. It was packed, rammed to the gills, and boarding was totally chaotic. Back in AirFrance Affairs class, that's French for business, there are hot towels, which are great when you feel all sweaty from fighting your way back from economy. They're all the little cubby holes you would expect, with a very convenient cupboard for storing headphones, water and even a mirror so you can see the headphone plug. Mains power as you'd expect, they take UK and Australian plugs and a USB power socket. The cabin crew were the opposite of those on the ground and asked if I wanted the seat tidied while I took photos. Unfortunately, my seat was falling apart. These aircraft were originally destined for Air France's now defunct low-cost subsidiary Joon, and are actually better than the mainline Air France's cabins, but not very well screwed together. I had economy traipsing through the cabin, having a good nosy at business class as I tried to put my seat back together and looked at what I'm doing when I'm filming the recline button. Great entertainment can be had when some people walk past muttering about l'Américain de médias sociaux. If you then reply in perfect French that je suis australien and see him scuttle back to l'économie. But the crew were superb and immediately poured Pommeraye Brut Royal Champagne, a bit cheaper than the usual Lorient Perrier Brut, and handed out amenity kits with an apparently eco-friendly herringbone pattern that features Air France's winged seahorse, the airline's historic emblem, for no adequately explained reason. They're the toothbrush and pen made from maize straw, as well as earplugs wrapped in craft paper to avoid using plastic. There's also a sleeping mask, socks, toothpaste and hand cream, plus face gel from Clarins for all those who couldn't get into the Clarins Spa in Paris. There were multiple camera views available, including an underbody one and pushback, and the crew went to great lengths to entice me into the menu. The menus are pretty classy affairs too. Alas, no amuse-bouche on these flights. Instead, there's just a basic entree of shrimp tartare with peas. And there we go, about to take off and hear those engines. Rolls-Royce Trent XWB-84 high bypass turbofans. And climbing high over the aptly named City of Light on the AirFrance A350 heading to Dubai from, well, I'd love to say the delightful environment of Charles de Gaulle, but then again, if he was alive today, he'd probably be turning in his grave at what had been named after him. Now, returning to the exceptional menu created by a Michelin-starred chef, no less, main style up the Frenchness with roast beef, chicken, coffee and onions. There's also poultry with tonka and creamy placenta. It's all pollock and seaweed in a love sauce plus spinach, or conchi pasta with Swiss chard and lemon coitus in ash-covered goat's cheese. Yum, sacre bleu. I'll save the wine list till we're at 35,000 feet. Now, I flicked on the in-flight entertainment system, which was pretty good, with an amazing 18-inch high-definition TV screen, and if you look at it away from it and, well, I guess if you kind of squint, you can just about make the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, and the land of Emily in Paris. Plenty of new films to choose from, as well as many individual shows and series. Indeed, I counted the odd 200 films, with a good choice of new releases, classic and oldies, although sadly, you had a choice between French and American films, and there didn't seem to be any British content, Australian content, or indeed much from any other country. Decent selection of TV shows, although only 2 to 4 episodes of each, so unless you'd been following obscure American series, you are pretty much out of luck. If only the entertainment system, though, actually worked. For me, it didn't, and I was stuck using the Wi-Fi, although admittedly that was €30 for the flight. But now the most important part of the flight, the wine list. And there are 2 fairly decent white wines, 2021 Poulet Fume Saint-Adrien or the 2020 Chablis Jean-Marc Brocard. Red wines are the 2020 Rhone Valley Creuse Hermitage or the 2017 Bordeaux Saint-Étienne Chateau Lillian. All the wines quite comfortably around 25 quid in Tesco or $40 in Dan Murphy. Right, heading out over the Seine, I'm making a beeline for Reims, appropriately enough, as that's the centre of champagne production. And even before the seatbelt sign was off, the crew came over and asked if I'd like another champagne, the Pommeraye Brut Royale. The crew were very keen to serve dinner. After all, it was only a short hop of 7 hours, and discussed all the options available, but there weren't actually all that many options. You couldn't choose an entree, as both were going to be presented on the tray at the same time, and the same for dessert. The shrimp tartare with pea cream and salmon with lemon cubes and ginger is unusual, but also unusually good. It comes with extra flavour, added avec. Even the baguette went great with the 2020 Chablis. You can really tell the limestone terroir for this grape, at least according to the airline's tasting notes, which had citrus nose combined with poached pear, green apple and iodine. That's the wine, not the notes. Heading east over a stormy Germany and Austria, I was a little disappointed that everything was served on the one tray and no attempt was made at individual service, and spot how even the 3 dessert options of 3 small pastries are laid out on the tray. Next up, the beef cheek in coffee pot-au-feu with onion consommé, which looked like it had been slopped around a rural bistro in Normandy. Pot-au-feu is one of France's most famous home-cooked dishes, with beef and vegetables all simmered in a pot over the fire, the clue's in the name, but AirFrance did this most humble of dishes superbly. Topped off with Dijon mustard and a 2017 Bordeaux Château Lillian, which was silky yet decomplexed, if there is such a word. Designed for Epicureans according to tasting notes, it has smoky cherries and tobacco flavours, and at $64 down there Murphy, so I was determined to gulp a couple of tumblers. Way over the Black Sea before I could sample the goat's cheese and a baguette. All of the Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée certification cheeses were there, including Crottin de Chavignon, a goat's cheese produced in the Loire Valley, while the Fromage d'Albat is a semi-hard French blue, and the Cantal is an aged French cheese with natural rind. All of them were amazing, and they go down very nicely with a sweet dessert wine, before moving swiftly on to the Merlot cherry tart, the dessert vanilla cream puff, and an opera cake, which is enough to keep me full for this life and probably the next. Only 4 hours to arrive, also no chance to sample the snacks, and I was determined to get some sleep. However, there's actually a very good flat bed. There's no mattress topper on this flight, just a pillow and a blanket, but nevertheless, I managed to get a good couple of hours sleep very, very soundly, and woke up over Kuwait as the light snapped on and the sunrise rose. The same delightful crew asked if I wanted petit déjeuner, and asked if I'd like to have the French, healthy, or the cooked breakfast, which of course can't be French, or even if I was really hungry, I could take both. The French version has a croissant, the healthy version has plain thick yogurt and fruit, and the unhealthy, or at least English option, is the mushroom and spinach flan, basically petit champignon in unscrambled egg. The flavour, wow! I became less phlegmatic with each forkful, and it took me back to tasting French food for the first time nearly 50 years ago, combining déjà vu mixed with existential angst. And the Bonne Gastronomie was superbly presented this time. No jam, but asked for some of Air France's specialty apricots, and it appeared within seconds as the towers of Dubai loomed over the heat haze of early morning. Now, good food and drink is a foundation of good hospitality, but also ensuring your customers come back. This is precisely where Air France's lounges failed, but Air France in the air pushed out the metaphorical boat. Compare that to the somewhat overrated Emirates product, where Emirates have enhanced the second meal out of existence in business class, and bon chance of getting much sleep, with Emirates 777s having just old-fashioned recliners and a 5 in a row in business class to add salt to injury. Now, there's no doubt that Emirates have got better lounges, but Air France excel in the air to Dubai, particularly if you get the A350. Now, these aircraft were originally destined for Air France's now defunct subsidiary Joon. It only lasted for a few years and therefore had a different design language than the rest of Air France's business class cabins. I liked it. The predominant grey, navy and white colours worked very well to create an air of refined luxury. But do note, all seats are equal in that they allow for direct aisle access at each seat, but some seats are more equal than others because of the staggered layout. So some have inherently more privacy, especially if you're travelling alone. As we landed, I had a chance to reflect on the seat. Now, the cabin and the seat on the Air France A350 looks and is fantastic. The seats are extremely comfortable and well designed, but some seats are better than others. Now, on the Air France A350, the business class seats are in a semi-angled, staggered configuration. So my seat near the window and away from the aisle was very, very private. Other seats, however, are right bang up against the aisle. It's that old French difference of masculine feminine. Get the preposition wrong and you're in for a world of pain. On the opposite side of the aisle, the Air France A350 business class seats are angled all towards it. Now, while very comfortable and having a lot of space, they aren't as private as the other styles of seat. Now, in general, Air France is very much a mixed bag though, less ooh la la and more fashion victim falling for a charade. Now, the seat collapsed, panels fell off, buttons became lava hot in operation, and as the crew very explicitly put it, it was kaput, if you'll pardon my French. The in-flight entertainment system failed on me as well with its own version of cancel couture. It was less cinema verite and more midnight in Paris. And I'm still in trauma about the lounges at Charles de Gaulle with the staff there performing their own coup d'etat. We arrived on time in Dubai and I had nearly 12 hours to kill before Cathay Pacific would take me off to Hong Kong, so I just hopped on the Dubai metro and ticked off all the sites. That includes the Burj, the world's tallest building, with an observatory platform 555 meters up in the air. Went down to look at the Dubai fountain, an amazing choreographed fountain on the 12-hectare artificial Burj Lake outside the shopping centre with Debenhams and ski slopes of Dubai. Had a quick play in the snow before heading out to the marina for sundown cocktails on the unique cocktail barges before again heading back to the airport. So, do I recommend Air France? Well, maybe. The lounges are nearly as horrible as Charles de Gaulle Airport. There are some good ones, but the food is pretty basic, and the catering and wine options, yeah, they're not what you expect in Paris. But on board, the food and the service was absolutely amazing. The seat is great, the aircraft is very new and it's very, very good. So on the whole, if you go into it with your eyes open, I do like Air France.